Ooh, this couple is new to Canada and they don't know anything about Canadian taxes. Do you know anything about Canadian taxes? In this lesson, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about Canadian taxes. Hey, if you're new to Canada, welcome here. I'm making some lessons on my channel that are really going to help you get set up in your new life in Canada. So I would be so happy if you subscribe to my channel right down there. Okay, so the first kind of tax that everyone in Canada has to pay is called GST. GST stands for Goods and Services Tax. This is a tax on everything you buy. Okay, so let's say you go to the store and you want to buy a can of Coke. Okay, it's going to say $1. Okay, so you're happy, you have a loonie. A $1 coin is called a loonie. And you go to pay for your can of Coke and you give the Coke to the store clerk, to the checkout clerk, okay? And she scans it, beep, and it comes up as $1.05, $1.05. What? But you only have a loonie. You can't buy the Coke. That's so sad. And why did this happen? It's because in Canada, the GST is 5%. So everything you buy in the store will have 5% added to the price you see on the shelf. Okay, now, other parts of the world are much smarter than Canada. Okay, like for example, Europe, if you see a price on the shelf, that's the price you pay when you go to check out. Okay, but in Canada, I don't know why we can't figure it out. So every thing that you buy is going to have this 5% added onto it. So when you go shopping, you need to think about that these prices aren't real. Okay, now this might not seem very much. It's only 5 cents. But in Canada, we also have PST. PST stands for Provincial Sales Tax. So you have to pay your federal sales tax, which is your GST, that's the Canada, and now you have to pay your provincial one as well. So what is that? Well, in Alberta, we're lucky. It's 0. We don't have PST here in Alberta, but the other provinces in Canada do have PST. Okay, for example, if you live in BC, it's 7%. If you live in Ontario, it's 8%. Usually it's around 7 or 8%. Some provinces are 10%. Okay, so that's quite a bit. That means if you go buy this can of Coke from the store, you're actually going to pay $1.13. 5% for the GST, and let's say you live in Ontario, 8% for the PST. Now you're paying 13 cents extra for your $1 Coke. Now you might still think, oh, 13 cents, that's not that much. Well, yeah, it's not that much, but let's say you're buying a $1,000 TV and you have to pay $130 in taxes to buy this TV. I mean, that's a lot of money. $130. Wow. Okay, so the first kind of tax is the tax on things you buy. Okay, GST and PST. Everyone in Canada, even tourists who come to Canada, they have to pay those taxes, right? Because you go to a store, you go to pay for it, it's automatically going to be calculated into the price when you try to pay for it. Okay, now the second kind of tax in Canada is called income tax. That is tax on the money you earn from your work. Okay, now the organization in Canada that collects the tax is called Revenue Canada. So if you ever get a call from Revenue Canada, that's maybe a bad thing. I don't know, it could be a good thing too, but if they want to do an audit on you, an audit means they are going to ask you some questions. Have you been cheating on your taxes? Okay, so most people don't want anything to do with Revenue Canada. People don't like paying tax, right? Now, everybody in Canada has to file their taxes before April 30th. Okay, April 30th is the deadline. So let's say, right now it's 2018, right? So people have until April 30th to pay for the 2017 tax year. So when 2017 ends, they have a few months to gather their things, to calculate, how much money they made from their jobs. And you get some slips in the mail, some documents in the mail from your work, especially one called a T4 slip that shows how much money you made from that job. So people take that T4 slip and they use that, and then they file their taxes. Now, most people file their taxes online, or they pay some company to do it for them. But you can actually just do it yourself. You can also do it in paper form, or you can do it online. There's some different ways you can file your taxes, okay? But you have to do it on or before April 30th. That's the deadline. Okay, so Canadian income tax is a graduated system, okay? That means people who make more money get taxed more. People who make less money get taxed less, okay? So the rich people pay more, poor people sometimes don't pay anything. That's how it works. So they're called tax brackets. A bracket, in grammar, or if you look on your keyboard, a bracket is like this, okay? So these tax brackets, a bracket is like a group of something, okay? So this bracket, let's say, is the lowest. It starts from $0 to $45,000. If you make somewhere in this range, then you are in the 15% bracket. Okay, that means you have to pay 15% on your income. Okay, but if you make more money, let's say you make like $100,000, then you would be in the 26% tax bracket. Okay, and if you make, a lot of money, then you're in a higher tax bracket. Okay, these are just some examples. There's actually more. Okay, there's more brackets here in between, but these are just a few examples so you can see what a bracket is. Okay, so that is your federal income tax. This is federal. Federal means national government, like Canada. This is your Canada income tax. But this is not where the tax ends. You still have provincial income tax. Okay, so it's the same thing. The federal income tax goes to the government of Canada. Provincial income tax goes to the province. So in Alberta, we have a flat rate of 10%. So everyone in Alberta pays 10% of their income to the Alberta government. Other provinces in Canada also use a graduated system. Okay, the bottom might be like 5%. It might go up to like 15% or something like that. Okay, so you actually have to pay two kinds of income taxes, right? So let's say you live in Alberta and you make $45,000 a year. 10% of that goes to Alberta, 15% goes to Canada. Okay, that's a lot. You're losing a lot of money in taxes. Okay, so basically those are the four kinds of taxes you need to know about. Okay, the GST, which is the government tax, although G stands for goods and services, but you could remember it just by government sales tax. You could think provincial sales tax, government sales tax, but really GST stands for goods and services tax. Okay, then your federal income tax and your provincial income tax. That's a lot of taxes. Let's say, for example, you live in Manitoba and you spend $20,000 a year on things like food. Maybe you buy a new TV or a car something like that, okay? You spend $20,000. That means you're going to pay about $2,600 in taxes on everything you buy. Then you're going to pay taxes on everything you earn. So let's say you make $40,000, then you have to pay federal income tax and provincial income tax. It's going to be about $10,600. Wow, that's like $13,000 that you have to pay every year in tax. But the good news is that there are actually some tax deductions and tax credits that sort of lower the amount of taxes that you have to pay. For example, if you have a big family, if you have lots of kids, the government is happy. The government wants Canadians to have more kids, right? I don't know, if, for example, the more Canadians have kids, the less immigrants we need. Because the government always says the reason we need immigrants to come to Canada is because we need more people to grow our economy. Canadians have so few kids that we need more. And then these immigrants come from India, Pakistan, and places, and they have lots of kids. And then some white people get really scared because all these brown people are taking over Canada. Okay, so that's sort of something that's happening in Canada. I'm not afraid of it. I like immigrants. Canada has always been a country of immigrants. Actually, like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, there were no white people here. It was just native people, okay, the First Nations people. Unfortunately, they have not been treated very well over the past 100 years. That's a big problem. But anyway, back to taxes. Okay, so if you have a big family, you might get some tax credits. Or if you make contributions to your RRSP. If you haven't seen my video on Canadian bank accounts, I'll put that at the end of this video as a link up here so you can watch that. What is an RRSP? Okay, RRSP helps lower your taxes as well. So there are some things to help lower your taxes, but generally I think Canada is a very high taxed country. But I want to know, how about your country? How much money do you pay in taxes in your country? Let me know down there in the comments, and I'll see you over in the next episode of Mad English TV. Take care.